course in English language teaching by Penny Yor. First chapter, English teaching today. What do I need to know? Overview. The section in this units are teaching priorities, the importance of teaching for teaching for both accuracy and fluency, makes learner aware of the variety of Englishes, a focus on vocabulary and the teaching of informal writing skills. English is an international language. The increased use of English for international communication and some of the implications for English language teaching worldwide. Language acquisition theories and teaching methodologies, a critical discussion. Some of the most important called language teaching methodologies today and their roots in language acquisition theories. Computerized teaching materials, the increased use of digital materials and internet-based text and tags to supplement coursebooks and other paper materials. Motivation factors which motivate or demotivate learners in their learning of English and what the teacher can do to increase learner motivation. 1.1 Teaching priorities. Teaching priorities in English language teaching have varied over the years. Fashions are constantly changing. The summary below represents those that seem to me to be well established at the time of writing and acceptable to most teachers and writers on methodology. Fluency and accuracy. The balance between fluency and accuracy is a good example of something that has not changed very much. In spite of some temporary fluctuations in fashion, it is important for our students to learn to use English both fluently and correctly so that they can get their message across effectively while using standard grammatical, lexical, phonological, and spelling conventions. However, something that has changed is that these conventions are no longer necessarily those of native speakers. They are rather those which are used by the majority of fluent educated speakers of the language in international communication. There will be situations where we are less fussy about absolute accuracy because getting a message across is more important than others, perhaps less frequent, where correctness is the priority. However, in general, we will do the best we can to make sure our students maintain a balance between the two. See, for examples, Unit 6, Teaching Grammar, and Unit 7, Error Correction. Recall an occasion when you were reading or listening to English which had obvious mistakes in it. What effects did these mistakes have on you? Which of the items below best describes how you felt? I had no problem at all with reading, listening and understanding. Mistakes didn't make any difference. I felt slightly uncomfortable reading or listening. I would have felt more comfortable if there had been no mistakes. Sometimes I had to make an effort to understand. I found it quite difficult to understand. I actually misunderstood. Unique word vocabulary, grammar, spelling, and pronunciation very rarely produce misunderstandings. They may, however, interfere with the smoothness of the communication and will result in a feeling of slight discomfort for both speaker, writer, and listener reader. Different styles and Englishes. Since English is today being used for all sorts of purposes worldwide, it is important for our students to know that there is not just one English style. There is in fact an enormous numbers of them. For example, students need to know the difference between informal speech and more formal written discourse, between the kinds of text you can acceptable write in emails or when chatting online, and the kind of text you should write in an academic essay. We therefore sure need to make the kind of text you should write in an academic essay. We therefore need to make sure that our teaching programs include exposure to a range of styles in order to raise students' awareness of the difference between them. In some cases, we may also want to get the students to try variation of different styles themselves. There is also a large number of different varieties of English code patriotism it's associated with a particular local community. Example, English in Singapore, social group. Example, teenage English any native in any native speaking community or profession. Example, legal English. Make a list of the different kind of English styles or genres you have heard, read, spoken or written over the last few days. For example, a shopping list, a telephone conversation, a text message, or a novel. How many different kind of text did you find? Vocabulary. There has been a great deal of research and vocabulary teaching in recent years. A major finding has been the overall importance of vocabulary knowledge. Particularly for reading comprehension, in order to read and understand an unsimplified text in English and showcase the words they did not know before. Learners probably need to know several thousands words. Families, moreover, it appears that acquiring vocabulary simply by reading or listening during a language course will not provide learners with the amount of vocabulary they need. We have to supplement such incidental acquisition with deliberate teaching and review of lexical items. See Unit 5, Teaching Vocabulary. This recommendation certainly matches the professional institution of many experienced teachers, including myself. It contrasts with earlier methodologies which recommended spending most time teaching the grammar, assuming that the vocabulary would take care of itself. It also differs from an extreme communicative approach, according to which it is not necessary to teach vocabulary consciously, because learners will acquire it through general communication exposure to the language. So section 1.3 below. What is your own experience of vocabulary learning when you learn a new language in schools? How did your teacher help you acquire vocabulary? Writing is often, perhaps mainly used in language teaching, is a vehicle for language practice and testing, rather than for the sake of the writing skill itself. Until comparatively recently, it has been far less useful for communicative proposes than the other three skills of listening, reading, or speaking. For this reason, communicative writing activities are less common in teaching materials than ones which promote communication through the other three skills. However, the importance of information writing for communication has increased immensely in the last generation. Crystal 2006 mainly due to the widespread use of email, online chat, blogging, texting, and social networking tools such as Facebook and Twitter. This means that we need to invest more effort in helping our students achieve written as well as reading fluency. See Unit 11, teaching writing, they need to master basic spelling, common abbreviations typical of informal texts. Example U for you and R for R. Use of pronunciation and so on. Perhaps even more important for written fluency is to promotion of fast typing. This does not mean that we need as English teachers to teach students how to type, but it does mean that we need to encourage them to practice doing so. Not that the ability to type fast in another language does not immediately transfer to English, even if the L1 mother tongue uses the Latin alphabet. Since fast typing, particularly touch typing, involves the automatic production of typical letters combinations rather than individual letters. This does not, of course, mean neglecting the teaching of clear and legible handwritings, which will continue to be a necessary skill for the foreseeable future. But the ability to type fast and accurately is at least as important and in some cases more so. Task. Have a look at your answers to the earlier tasks on part 2, where you listed the different styles and genres you have encountered. Which of those you listen involve your own writings? How many of these, as far as you know, were being used before 1990?